Not all of us have the blessing to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein, but there is still a way to experience the sights and sound of the blessed land of Karbala in the comfort of your own homes.
We call upon you, dear viewers, to support us in our financial costs to help bring the Holy Land of Karbala beaming into your homes. You can support us with a monthly donation of just $50 or £30. We are your gateway to Karbala. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Imam Hussein TV 3.
I am a symbol of faith and a symbol of hope. None can compare to my splendor. Many travel miles from far and wide to see me. They come with their friends and family, some alone.
The show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, this is a live show. We're taking all your questions. So if you have any question you'd like to ask, please send it in via the WhatsApp. The QR code should be there in the corner. Also, the WhatsApp number there below. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, you can put your questions in the comment section. If you want to call in, 0203 515 0199. And if you're outside of the UK, you can use the WhatsApp number there below to call us in. Ask on anything you like. You can ask on traveling, food, money, marriage, inheritance, raising children, whatever the question is. We don't need to know your name. We don't need to know where you're asking from. Send it in via WhatsApp. Send it in on Facebook Live or on YouTube. And inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer all of your queries. I'm your host, Mohsin Shia, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Ma'ash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are we doing, Sheikhna?
Alhamdulillah, fine.
Fantastic. MashaAllah. Okay, Sheikhna. So the first question I have for you is from WhatsApp. And it is it permissible for a woman to sit around the dinner table with her in-laws and other male relatives who are non-mahram to her?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. If there is no haram involved in this gathering with the non-mahram, there's no banter, there's no cracking jokes, for example, that could lead to some kind of lustful feelings at the end of the day. There's no, any haram aspects behind this gathering, then of course there's no issue with it, but otherwise it would be haram because we have the banter, mufakaha is forbidden with the opposite gender, friendship, teasing remarks and so forth, these are all forbidden. Of course it's better to have the men's sections and then you have the women's section, even if they are in the same, let's say, room, just to avoid any kind of forbidden interaction as a result.
Nice. Sheikh, questions coming in now from YouTube, from our viewers. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Alaikum assalam.
Is it permissible to pray with a leave-in conditioner in your hair? It's like cream and is absorbed and is not meant to be washed out. Okay. It's permissible to pray with a leave-in conditioner in your hair. All right, Sheikhna, if a female, and sometimes males as well, they will perform their wudu, and then they put, you know, I wouldn't say chemicals, but they put products in their hair, gel, wax. This one is leave-in conditioner. Now, the purpose of leave-in conditioner is to help moisturize the hair and so forth. Now, this person has asked, let's say if it's a male or it's a female, they'll put the product in their hair, they'll do the hijab if it's a female, and go pray salah. Is there any issue with that?
Not at all. There's no issue with it, unless if it's causing some kind of obstacle or mass on the head, where they cannot perform the wiping or the masah on the head. Then they have to remove it and be able to do the masah and the wiping on the head.
So if
they can reapply again
so
afterwards.
if it was the other way around, let's say they haven't performed wudu, or let's say ghusl, they went to the shower, you know what I mean, they've washed their hair, they've put in the product, and now they have to go perform wudu, or you know, they have to perform ghusl again, but they want to leave the product in their hair. Can they do something else, or do they have to wash it out and then perform the ghusl or the wudu?
The condition of wudu that you have to apply all the places or the conditions or the spots of the wudu to be performed correctly. So masah on the head and both feet, washing of the face and both arms, they have to be achieved in somehow.
Fair. From WhatsApp as well, Assalamu alaikum. I wore a hoodie a couple of times at the beginning of the year. Then I stopped wearing the clothing. Is khums due on the hoodie? So I wore it a couple of times at the beginning of the year. Now I don't wear it anymore. I don't wear it as much. Do I have to pay khums on it?
As long as you have used it now and it became part of the expenses or expenditures or ma'un, as they say the ulama, there's no khums on it. So you've used it, you put it aside maybe for the next, let's say, because sometimes you have winter clothing and you have summer clothing, so you actually left it because you don't want to wear it now because it's I don't know, for whatever reason, but you're going to maybe wear it next year, for example. But you've already used that product. Because you've used it, it became part of your ma'una, of your annual expenditure, then there's no khums in it.
Fair. From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Is it permissible to pray with an abaya that has become dirty because it's dragged through the wet streets because of the rain and etc.?
The issue is to do with the impurities. If there's impurity najasa, then they have to wash it. Otherwise, it's fine. I mean, the dirt wouldn't avoid your prayers. It's the najasa and impurities in which would cause the issue.
From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salam.
Is it considered a sin if we post pictures of our hair on social media without revealing our faces and some non-mahram views them? So let's put it like this. If there's a female and she takes a picture of herself without the hijab, but then she'll put something in front of her face, sometimes like a heart or a flower or something like that, but the hair is still being shown and so forth. Is that okay to be posted online?
Well, the ulama say that the only parts of the body that can be shown is the face and both hands. Nothing else is allowed to be shown as a picture, as a video, clip, and so forth. إلا ما ظهر منها. Only the face and both hands.
Here's a really good question, Sheikh, from WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Could you recommend best surahs and du'as to recite while pregnant for a righteous child and a safe, healthy pregnancy and birth?
I can't really remember exactly which surah Maryam was it. I can't really remember. But in overall, if one can recite the Holy Quran surah in overall, I'm sure there's a specific surah. I'm not sure if it's Surah Maryam or other surah. But in overall, to recite Surah Yasin, for example, which is the heart of the Quran, would be also great.
Furthermore, she's also asking, Sheikhna, how long after the pregnancy do I need to start praying again and so forth? Because as you are aware, there's some bleeding and so forth and healing that's required after the pregnancy. When does salah become wajib on the sisters again after pregnancy?
I mean, in some cultures, they think that it's 40 days and they keep, without salah and fasting for for 40 days, which is of course wrong. They have to see their monthly recycled days, and of course after giving birth, they have to check because it's called nifas. So it's got similar ahkam with the haid or the monthly cycle. They have to follow this procedure, of course, but not 40 days. It's not correct.
Can you, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh, this is from WhatsApp. Can you please suggest me a book that will help me control my carnal desires?
Makarim al-Akhlaq, a great book to read.
What about, there was something about sins. There's a book on sins and there's a book on repentance, I believe.
I think The Great Sins by Dast Ghaib. He's got, I think it's in English as well.
That's a good one to understand
exactly,
what you're doing and why you're
I think Makarim al-Akhlaq is a collection. It's not just about sin. It teaches you everything, all aspects of life, from eating, drinking, how to behave correctly at all stages.
Fair. From WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. I use a stick device on my arm to check my glucose sugar levels for diabetes, which I can change every 10 days. I also do ghusl on top of this. Is this permissible? There is an alternative, but inconvenient and slightly painful. Okay. I don't know if you've seen Sheikhna, but sometimes there's like a patch or something that they have. And then with the machine, they can check their sugar levels whenever they want. Obviously, that patch is now an obstacle for wudu, ghusl and so forth.
And they have to have it.
They have to have it. There are alternatives, but they're a lot more painful. So there's, I don't know if you've had a blood test, Sheikhna, when they take it from your thumb and then, they drop it in to check your iron levels and so forth. That is one way to check your sugar levels. Other times is, an injection and take a sample of your blood and so forth, and then they check your sugar levels like that. But this one seems to be the most convenient.
I mean, if they're compelled to do so, then of course what we have is wudu al-jabira, as it's known, where you have, let's say, bandage on your hand, on your arm, for example, and in this case you have to, or just a plaster, let's say, a small plaster for the wound, and you apply that plaster or bandage, and you do wudu as usual, but you just have to rub gently on that part, and that is known as wudu al-jabira, which is the wudu of the obstacle, let's say, if we can translate it correctly. Nice. So that would suffice and fulfill the aim for the wudu.
Excellent. More questions coming in, Sheikhna. How can one balance between well-being of the soul and the body? Because at times I focus on one and at times on the other. And that is from WhatsApp. Sheikhna, this is a really good question. We always focus on spirituality. And, of course, spirituality is very, very important because that is our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and also the Ahlul Bayt and so forth. But the well-being of the body, sometimes people neglect that you need to look after your body. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you an imana that you have to take care of, whether it is going to exercise, whether it is eating the right foods, and so much more. How do you find the right balance? Does Islam discuss having a healthy body as well as a healthy mind and a healthy soul?
I mean, that's why I recommended the book of Makarim al-Akhlaq, I think by Sheikh al-Tabarsi, if I'm not wrong. So he mentions also about some of the benefits of specific food, for example, which is for the body, for example. I think something mentioned about, maybe in this book or other books, that narration states that if the woman, the lady who is pregnant, it's a good opportunity that to have, let's say, a beautiful child born, for the beauty of the child face, to eat queens, for example, safarjal, queens.
Queen, okay.
Exactly. That's one of the ways in which the child can be beautiful and looking,
We were told to recite Surah Yusuf.
Anyhow, this is mentioned as part of the in the narration. So, I mean, what is mentioned seems to be before they actually, the husband eats it before approaching the wife, but she can still eat queens or safarjal for this purpose. I mean, these are all mentioned, through the hadith books. Makarim al-Akhlaq is the main one, for example, and other books can be also referred back to.
From WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalam.
This one is it considered a sin to have a fake social media profile for marketing purposes with an English name and a profile picture of a Western girl without a headscarf? Good question, actually, Sheikhna. Very good question. Right. So, Sheikhna, if I'm, let's say, I'm using, there's a platform called LinkedIn. It's social media, but professional. I have a business. I need to promote my business. I need to promote my my talent, whether I'm writing contracts, if I'm editing pictures and videos, I'm doing coding, whatever I'm doing. Is it okay for me? Unless I'm a muhajjiba, I am in the Middle East somewhere or in Asia, I'm working from home on my laptop. Is it okay that I make a fake social media profile? I put a fake name, I don't know, Mary Smith, and I've got a picture of a Western lady on that, and that's my alias. I go to work on that. I go apply for jobs. They look at my social media. Oh, it's a European girl. She's got all the experience. She looks really good. Let's offer her the job, or let's give her a contract for a couple of months. She can do the work where she is at home, and so forth. Is that acceptable? Is that allowed?
I mean, what Ayatollah Sistani mentions that we have to follow the rules of that company or that organization, and to avoid any kind of deceiving or cheating, if this is applied to this kind of work and employment. So, I mean, they have to find out, is this legal, let's say, within the boundary of e-marketing, for example.
But at the same time, Sheikhna, you are not obliged to give your real name when you go anywhere. If you go to, a restaurant and they say, "Oh, we have to book a table. Can I book a table? What's your name?" You don't have to give your real name. You can give any name you want, especially if it's a posh Western restaurant who might have difficult to say your name or this and that. You can give a white name, an English name, or something like that. So there's the idea of protecting your personal details, and then there's the idea of when they have to pay you your wages on the check, whose name do they put?
Exactly.
So it's back and forth. So I totally understand.
Exactly. I mean, as I've said, they have to see if they're following because every website, every business they have, even if it's online business, they have rules and regulations that should be followed. So it depends. They have to check these terms and conditions.
From WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Can I gift my daughter a house while I am alive and not on my deathbed, considering that she has a paternal brother who is currently living with the Christian mother and who my husband hopes to raise as a Muslim? So, I'll say that one again. Can I gift my daughter a house while I'm alive, considering that she has a paternal brother who is currently living with his Christian mother and who my husband hopes to raise as a Muslim?
As long as you're still alive, you can give gifts to your children. I remember one of the mu'minin in Karbala, he gave a whole house to a impoverished family in Karbala in the 70s, 80s. A whole house, imagine. He gave it as a gift to a faqir, to somebody who had no house or accommodation to live in. So he gave it as a gift to them. So as long as you're alive, you can give donations, tabarru'at, participate in serving the mu'mineen, those who are in need, give niyaz, everything. The problem is when somebody dies, that moment, you no longer own your assets and wealth, except that 1/3, thuluth, which can be written as a will. That's only the amount allowed for the deceased to make as a will, 1/3 of the whole wealth.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. This is from YouTube. Did Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, tell us the names of the 12 Munafiq companions to Hudayfa al-Yaman Radi radiyallahu anhu? I'm not used to saying that, sorry.
The names are mentioned, I think, in Bihar al-Anwar. Once I was reading, if not in other books, about those one. All the names, 15 names are mentioned one by one, because Allah Azza wa Jal wouldn't allow for the haqq to be neglected and to be concealed, and the batil also will be revealed as well and exposed, at least once or twice, to show that there was a plot to kill the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to
Sallallahu
get rid of
alaihi
him
wasallam.
and take the power. And of course, they were successful at the end of the day. On his deathbed, you know, they finished the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was ill,
Yeah.
and they finished the job by poisoning him. And it's mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, ladadna Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi, that we gave him a medicine in which it was, of course, a poison. That the Prophet, when he woke up, he told everyone should take this medicine
Yes.
as a test, except my uncle Abbas, because they accused Abbas of giving this medicine. The sallallahu alaihi wasallam tried to test them, but they refused to take because it was a poison. So yes, indeed, you know, the names mentioned, I've read them one by one, and of course, it's a tragedy. Today we are paying the price as a result. The Muslim Ummah paying this price because of neglecting the true leaders of Islam, Muhammad wa ali Muhammad sallallahu alayhi.
Ahsant. And Imam Hussein TV3 has a documentary on the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inshallah. You guys can look it up. I think it's called Killing a Prophet. And then the Sheikh is also involved in that documentary. And it goes into specific detail in the history of how Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was killed. From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Is it okay to be friends with non-mahram, but only friends, nothing more?
You see what the Quran mentions, and I've mentioned this many times. The Holy Quran states, وَلَا مُتَّخِذِ أَخْدَانِ, and do not consider and take opposite gender as friends. If they're opposite gender, you're not allowed to have them as friends, unless through marriage contract, nikah contract, where they can be halal in somehow. Other than that, it's a problem, because that's what cause haram and forbidden consequences as a result, and you'll be getting sins as a result. You know, banter, cracking jokes, romantic exchange of words. These are all haram, unless there's a contract mentioned between you and the other side.
Is it wajib to pray Jummah prayers?
As mentioned before, Jum'ah prayer is a wajib takhiri. It means you have the option. You have two wajib now. Either to pray Salat al-Jum'ah with the Imam, with the two sermons or the conditions, or to pray Dhuhr. So it's your choice. To go and pray it in the mosque, or pray at home, Dhuhr Salah.
From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. I am a Bahraini law student in my last year. Is there anything I need to be particularly wary when it comes with my major when I start working? Well, it depends where you're going to be practicing law, my friend. I'm not sure where you're going to be practicing law, but Sheikhna, advice to any student really that is graduating and going to go into, you know, the real world to work, especially here in the West. Any advice?
Well, they have to refer back to the Risala Amaliya of their marja', the Ahkam Shar'iyya that is mentioned in Bab al-Qada', for example, in the law, for example, of, I don't know, marriage or divorce, or when somebody is in dispute, they come to the judge, for example. They need to have some kind of knowledge with this regard. I think it's easy. They can access the ulama's books and websites, and they can read about Bab al-Qada'. I think it's mentioned in detail when you have the judge and those who come and ask for their right, how to give the haqq to the one who deserves it, for example. What are the witness, for example, what is the ahkam of the witness, for example, to be adil, for example, and so forth. They have to somehow be in contact, the best way to say, with a alim, a faqih, be able to ask for these questions, because they're going to face it, could be every day. So they have to ask alim, one of the ulama they trust, they follow, for example, to be in contact, let's say, with the ulama, so they won't basically rule against Allah Azza wa Jalla. The Quran says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Those who do not rule according to Allah Azza wa Jalla's rulings, he is, na'udhu billah, oppressor and zalim.
Wow, powerful. Sheikh, we're going to go to a short break. Join us after the break as we continue your questions in our discussion, inshallah, after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of scholars. Is it permissible
to plant trees by or over Islam the established based on peace and non-violence? Is it permissible to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim countries?
Is there an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, WhatsApp us on
+44 7415 092155.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars at
permissible to
home.
plant trees by or
Was
over
Islam
the
established
graves?
based on peace and
Is it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Now, before the break, we had loads of your questions coming in, and if you have a question that you'd like to send in, please send them in via the WhatsApp number. It should be on the bottom there with the QR code. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, you can put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, we've got so many questions coming in, and inshallah, we'll be able to get through all of them. If I can find today's ones. Okay, here we go. From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalam.
How can I be helpful to my society? I want to avoid sins and bad habits by also being around others and being helpful. I'm not sure what to do. Any suggestions? Sheikhna, I think, we have this saying in England that charity starts at home. Whenever you want to make a change or you want to make a difference, you start with yourself, then you start with your family, and then you work onto your community. The same with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he brought Islam, he started with his own household, his own family first, then his clan, then his tribe, and then the other tribes of his city, and then the rest of Arabia and so forth. So for youngsters here, now this person, they said that they're 19 years old and they're a sister, they're a female. For our teenagers out there, how can they be more of a benefit to the community and to help others?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As mentioned in the hadith that one should learn our knowledge, يتعلم علومنا. From this age, try to read the books. Now you can choose hadith books, history books about Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, ahkam books. Of course, you have to know your basic ahkam, what is wajib, what is haram, so that you can avoid it, and wajib to be applied and implemented. That's important. So you have to get some kind of knowledge. As you get knowledge about football players, the teams, the times they would play, for example, other interests in games and so forth. Try to get that knowledge, basic knowledge of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, history, ahkam, aqa'id, very important, Islamic beliefs, principles. Try to prove to yourself, does Allah exist? Subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do I prove it? And the same for the prophethood, for the Imam of Ahlul Bayt. How can I prove that? Ahlul Bayt are the ones who deserve to be the true leaders of Muslims and not the others. And to be, let's say, chosen by Allah Azza wa Jal. Read basically these, and gradually you will build up by attending the majalis of Ahlul Bayt in Muharram, the holy month of Ramadan, Fatimiyya, and try to be in touch with the mu'min and mu'minat, with the pious individuals in the centers, outside the centers, to be with those who are can actually save you dunya and akhirah as well. Inshallah.
From YouTube, Sheikhna, my best friend has family problems and I feel like she's lonely 24/7. I try to be there, but I can't the whole day because as I sit with my family and do the work I need to do as a uni student. Advice? Well, Sheikhna, I've been in this position, and I'm sure a lot of people have. When you are the main support, or you are the main backbone for a person who's going through something, depression, anxiety, grief. Somebody might have lost their job and they're feeling a bit down. Someone might be going through a divorce and so forth. Happens with men, happens with women as well. They keep going to the same person's house non-stop and spending a lot of time because they're upset, they're miserable, and they're just trying to clear their mind and so forth. And yes, there's only a certain amount some people can do, Sheikhna. We have our own lives to live, we have our own responsibilities that we can't ignore and so forth. So what advice do you have for someone who's helping somebody and now it's affecting their lives?
I think the best way to overcome the situation is to attend مجالس أهل البيت عليهم السلام on a weekly basis. دعاء الندبة, دعاء كميل, دعاء توسل. If there are activities on, let's say, the weekends, to attend them in the centers around the country, for example, in their locality, to go to the ziyarah, for example,
Ziyarah is always good.
of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam, Umrah, Hajj, whatever would change this situation of one's mood, for example. You have to get involved in some activities. That would, of course, overcome the situation, inshallah.
From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I'm unable to wake up from Fajr and I have a problem with waking up from sleep. I can't hear my alarm. Is there any advice? Okay, so the first thing, if you are a deep sleeper, is you need to sleep earlier and you need to be in a routine. You need to get, your body needs to have a body clock. So if you're going to bed every day at 10 o'clock at night, at 10 o'clock your body automatically starts to fall sleepy because it's in a routine. Sheikh, any other advice for waking up for Fajr?
Just ask somebody in the house, a sibling, parents, to wake you up.
Throw water on you?
No, they have to do their best. I mean, if he wants to, basically, to ask them to do so, to recommend for them to wake him up. So, because Salat Subh is wajib, it's farida. You can't say because I can't wake up, then I can just miss it and make up later. No, it's wajib to pray on time. So you have to find alternatives to wake up and pray.
Okay, Sheikh, we've got a lot of questions to get through, so I'm going to have to ask you to keep your answers direct and short in order to get it through for this whole episode. Okay, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. When I listen to Mullah Nazar Qatri, Nasheed, it makes me want to tap my feet and nod my head. Is this allowed?
One of the ulama, interestingly, he was telling that if one reaches that stage of tarab in Arabic, I don't know what the tarab means in English, maybe that feeling of you want to dance, for example, then that's, of course, you have to stop it at that stage. You have to stop listening, for example. So it depends on the stage of the feelings that you're reaching. And overall, what is mentioned is you're not allowed to listen to songs, music, entertaining music, for example, to participate in, let's say, parties, dance, and so forth.
From YouTube, Sunnis claim that the Holy Prophet ﷺ appointed Abu Bakr to lead the prayer during his illness. Is this statement accurate? And can you provide more details on the entire incident?
Well, that needs to
That's a whole
basically
episode.
a whole episode, and we have to go back to the sources, from the Shia sources, what they said, to the non-Shia sources as well. So we need lots of time for this answers. Yeah.
But it's not true. I think the Shia narrative is that he tried to lead the prayer and was stopped, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was brought to the mosque, and he led the prayer on his knees because he was so ill.
Yes, he led the prayer himself.
Yeah, so
he didn't allow anyone else to.
Apparently, it was a catastrophe if it was going to happen.
Yeah.
He said, "Stop this catastrophe from happening and take me inside," and so forth. From YouTube, what is the time limit for Zuhrain prayers, Sheikhna? We see on the prayer timetable sunset and then the Maghrib time. So, where does Dhuhr and Asr become? When does it finish? Is it at the sunset or is it at the Maghrib Adhan?
Many ulama would say that it's by the sunset. So that 4 minutes before the sunset is for Salat al-Asr and not for Dhuhr. Now you have only 4 minutes for Salat Dhuhr and Asr. This Salah would be for only Asr and Dhuhr becomes Qada, for example. So many would say it's within the sunset. You should have prayed your Dhuhr and Asr.
Fair. From WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. I knew I was wearing something that was najis, but didn't realize the impurity was transferring to my body when I washed myself in the bathroom. I changed my clothes when I prayed and did not realize my body was najis while praying. Is my prayer valid?
Salah with najasa.
I think, Sheikhna, is it with, if the time has gone, then it's okay. But mathalan, if it was Dhuhr and Asr, and the sunset hasn't happened, and I found out, my body was najis, I didn't know, then you must repeat it.
Pray within the time. Yeah.
But if Maghrib has adhan has happened, then it's okay. You don't need to repeat it. Then is this correct?
I can't remember that masala. Inshallah, we refer back.
Okay, we'll check that again. From WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum. I am playing animated games which may have indecent images. If we are sure that I will not lead to any fornication and so forth, can I continue playing these games?
You see, any game that has indecent images, because they're almost very close to the human, real human
Very
images,
lifelike.
one should avoid them, because at the end of the day, some of these images would arouse the lust, unintentionally as a result of playing and getting excited. So one should avoid these games as much as they can.
Is it permissible to use a remote control device to stimulate your spouse when they are physically away from each other? Okay, so using what we call toys, Sheikhna, and they are to arouse oneself and so forth. Maybe there's a wife, my husband's gone on a long journey, and I have this big appetite. Then are they allowed to use such, tools and so forth?
These are not allowed in the Sharia, and the only way is to be, with the same, let's say, this husband and wife. Now, be it over the phone or over the Skype, for example, video, they talk, let's say, romantic words, fine, but with no other tools. So it has to be within that limitation. If you use any other tools, it's forbidden. And of course, it could lead to masturbation.
From WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum, brother and Sheikh. Alaikum salam. How do we respond to Ahl Sunnah when they call us people of shirk and grave worshippers? Now, let's be fair. The Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat never ever call us, grave worshippers or shirk or this. So that's actually quite nice with us. However, yes, there are some Wahhabis and Salafis and other people of other sects that call Shia grave worshippers and people of shirk and bid'ah and so forth. How do we respond to that, Sheikhna?
Well, the true shirk is on that extreme side, which says that Allah has hands. When the Holy Quran speaks about the hand of Allah Azza wa Jal, or Allah comes, وَجَاءَ رَبُّكَ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ, that Allah comes with the malaika on the Day of Judgment, they just take the zahir as is, the apparent meaning of the Quran. And they say Allah has hand, and He would put his leg inside the hellfire, and He would say qat means stop.
Yeah.
These things are, na'udhu billah,
This is the biggest
assigning to Allah body is the major sin and major kufr.
Ascribing body parts.
So they have to answer first for these questions.
Sheikh, now we've got time for 2 more questions, and if you can do it as quick as possible. From YouTube, I took a student loan last year and applied this year too. Now that the classes have started and the loan has been approved, I found out that it is with interest. My heart is very restless. What should I do?
As I've said before many times, that taking out loans for the one who is compelled, who needs this money to pay for expenses, is allowed to pay. And some ulama would say pay with the intention of gift and not as interest and so forth. So these are allowed in anyhow. Mortgage, for example, for your first home, buying the first house to pay interest, also allowed, because these are compelled situations.
Fair. Question from YouTube, Sheikhna. Do I have to wear abaya specifically, or can I wear baggy clothing?
What is important in the Sharia, that the woman should cover her body with a wide garment and not tight. So you have to make sure that your body's shapes or curves are not shown. Your body parts are not shown.
Fair.
So the problem is with wearing tight types of, let's say, hijab. That's the problem, where the body shape is revealed in somehow.
Yeah, unfortunately, Sheikhna, we see, and I'm not saying this is the sisters that do this, but just to give an example, is if you go to the gym, you'll see a lot of females wearing very, very tight sport clothing, and I think it's to allow them to be able to move a bit more freely or whatever. This is not acceptable according to Islamic Sharia. It should be baggy. I guess what the abaya is probably ideal because it's designed to hide the figure of a lady,
Exactly.
And so forth. But some females feel scared wearing the abaya. They may be attacked on the street and so forth. Islamophobia is quite, strong in certain cities in the West, especially in Paris and places like that. So then maybe they want something that's a bit more acceptable to both Islam and the West and so forth. Sheikh, I think we've got time for one more.
Inshallah.
And I'll take the YouTube one. Assalamu alaikum, Akhi and Sheikh. Alaikum salam. If there is one advice you could give us, what would it be? Okay, Sheikh, now you give one piece of advice and I'll give one piece of advice. But first you, please.
Always be within the frame of Quran and Ahlul Bayt. Do not exceed that frame. Be with that. Kitabullah wa itrati Ahlul Bayt. Very important for your dunya and akhirah. Stick with this in a framework. Don't exceed it and don't leave it. Kitabullah wa itrati Ahlul Bayt. Implement the Holy Quran and believe in the Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa.
And the best advice I can give to the brothers and sisters is that we have a narrative, we have a school of thought, and we should be proud and we should learn this, and we shouldn't be apologetic and we shouldn't shy away from it. If they say to us, oh, you reject the first three caliphs, or say it with an open chest and then with a smile, yes we do, and these are the reasons why. Oh, you guys, you know, you do takfir on this person, that person, yes we do, and these are the reasons why. You know, there's no need to shy and be like, oh no we don't, or this or that. No, be proud of who you are, where you come from, your heritage, because we have the walaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and that is something that will save us inshallah on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Sheikhna, thank you very much, and thank you to all the viewers for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. Sheikh, we have so many questions we didn't answer. I do apologize, we've run out of time. However, these questions we will keep and answer all of them on Monday, inshallah. So join us on Monday, 7 p.m. here on Imam Hussein TV 3. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please send it in via the WhatsApp. The number should be on the bottom. When you're watching on Facebook Live or on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah the technical team will give them to me. And inshallah on Monday we'll be able to answer all of your questions. Okay, take care. See you then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
I am a symbol of faith and a symbol of hope. None can compare to my splendor. Many travel miles from far and wide to see me. They come with their friends and family, some alone. I have the answers to their prayers. I am the key to their deliverance. They are mesmerized by my radiance, mesmerized by my glory, for I am worth my weight in gold. I cover those in prayer like a blanket of safety, a quilt of protection. But some of you don't even pray. Have you forgotten your master? I am made from a precious metal found all over the world. Though you would burn when you touch fire, heat makes me purer. I bring warmth to every heart that looks at me. They all look up to me, raising their hands, reaching out to the heavens. Under me, your prayers are accepted. Under me, your prayers are answered. I see each and every one of you flock in me like bees to flowers. You bring your hearts, your hopes and dreams, your desires, your nightmares. You think you know Karbala. I watch over the gates. I house the angels who circulate and pray for the sinners. I hear every prayer, every wish, every request, every hope, every despair of a broken heart. I hear every mumbled and uttered word of salutations. O Hussein, peace be upon you. You want to touch the shrine? I make sure no rain nor dust falls on it. I make sure no harm can.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this exciting new series in which we are going to be exploring an issue that particularly affects our communities in the West, but also in other countries as well. It is an issue that sometimes we don't talk nearly enough about, and that is, how do we welcome new Muslims, convert Muslims, revert Muslims into the Muslim community, into the Muslim family? How do we make them feel that they are part of the Ummah? What kind of problems are they facing that we can help with? Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. As a wise person once said, good advice is good advice. And the advice that we're going to be discussing on these programs is not only useful to help those people who are converting to Islam, but is also good advice for everyone, perhaps yourself or people you know. Because some of us may be facing some of the same challenges and situations as people who convert to Islam, especially if we're on our own. Perhaps someone, for example, comes to the United States as a PhD student from a Muslim country, or doesn't have any family. Maybe they don't have practicing Muslim family, or for whatever reason, maybe they're returning to Islam. Many of the things we discuss on these programs will be relevant to many people, albeit the main focus is with respect to how to find some practical solutions to some of the challenges that new Muslims face. Because it is very sad. Do you know that out of every 10 people who become Muslim, so every 10 people, you can look around the masjid and find 10 new Muslims, 7 of them will leave Islam within a couple years. This statistic is astounding. Why would 7 out of 10 people leave Islam? Do they have a problem with Allah Ta'ala? Is it theological? It's very rare that you find people who become Muslims saying, oh, I left Islam because I decided I don't believe in Allah, or I don't believe in the Holy Quran, or I don't believe in the Holy Prophet. Sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. No. Usually it is social issues, community issues, the challenge of finding a Muslim husband or wife, acceptance in the community, access to Islamic knowledge. These are the things that unfortunately drive some people away. It is very sad. But we can change this. We can have a positive outlook to life. And inshallah, by considering what we can do to make a better community for everyone, we can turn this statistic around. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allah Ta'ala says in His holy book, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal maw'izati al hasana. Allah Ta'ala tells us to call people to the path of Allah Ta'ala with 2 things, with wisdom and with good advice. This ayah contains a very straightforward statement, a very straightforward assumption, and that is we should be calling people to Allah Ta'ala. And this is something we may do on a daily basis. You may be calling your children to Allah. You may be calling your spouse or your brothers and sisters to Allah Ta'ala. And also, one of the best things we can do within society is invite people to the worship of Allah Ta'ala, not in an annoying way. And we all know what I mean by annoying, like those people who come knocking on your door 8 in the morning, they want to tell you why Jesus is going to save you. That can be a bit annoying. But rather in a way which is tactful and appealing to people. And inshallah, they appreciate the discussion whether or not they choose to embrace Islamic monotheism. So, calling people to Islam is an essential part of our religion. but I am going to ask a question. And I would like you to self-reflect on this question. Really, give it some thought. Ask yourself, what do I truly believe? And that is, do we truly believe that Islam is the one religion, or the correct religion, for all peoples and at all times? Now you may be thinking to give a logical answer and saying, well, yes, of course Islam is the religion for all people and all times. The Holy Quran is for all people. The Holy Prophet ﷺ came for all people. But is this really what we believe? Or is there somewhere inside where we believe that Islam is only for a group of people? Maybe it's for the East. Islam is for the East and Christianity is for the West. Maybe it's for an ethnic group, a language group. Maybe Islam is for people whose parents are Muslims. How can we figure out what we really believe? Let me put forward a scenario. Let's say someone immigrates to the United States from Korea. There's a fair number of people from Korea. And let's say they become a Christian. I'm sure you've met many dedicated Korean Christians. Are Christians going to look at that person in amazement and say, you converted to Christianity? That's so good. That's so amazing. You're so much better than us. I've never met a Christian who was Korean. Can you come on our television channel and talk about how you became a Christian? Right, that doesn't happen. Why doesn't it happen? Because Christians in the West believe that Christianity is the right religion. They believe that everyone should be a Christian. It doesn't matter where they're from. They actively invite people to Christianity, and they think it's normal. Now, it is possible that in the olden years, in those medieval olden years, when Islamic civilization had civilizational ascendancy and was the dominant economic and cultural force in the region, it is possible that people had the same sort of blasé approach to people converting to Islam. You're a Muslim. Well, of course you're a Muslim. Who wouldn't want to be a Muslim? Islam is for everyone. But nowadays we know the situation has been reversed. There are some Muslims, even if they won't necessarily say it to your face, they do feel a little bit shy about Islam. Sometimes they feel like Islam maybe isn't good enough. That's why some people get very surprised when they see white people like me who are Muslims, because they say, oh, white Americans, white Europeans, your culture is so up there and we're down here nowadays. How could you become a Muslim? If we are thinking like that, that is not only a social issue. That is an issue of faith, because part of our faith is to fully acknowledge that the Book of Allah and the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him and his family, are for all peoples and all times. Now, how do we know this? Of course, it is something that is commonly known. But for example, Allah Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا كَافَةً لِلنَّاسِ, that Allah Ta'ala has sent the Holy Prophet ﷺ to all of the peoples. Allah Ta'ala frequently throughout the Holy Quran addresses people in general. He doesn't just address Muslims or a specific group. It is a human being-oriented book. In fact, he even speaks about the jinn as well. Additionally, the Holy Prophet ﷺ also said in the narrations that we have from him, it's narrated that he said that he was sent for not only his people at his time, but all peoples afterwards, and that every people received a messenger in their language, except when it comes to the messenger of Allah, in that his language is Arabic, but he is still the messenger for all peoples. And alhamdulillah, we see today, most Muslims are not even native Arabic speakers. Islam has spread far outside the confines of the Arabic-speaking world, so this has not proven any hindrance in communicating the message. And I would point out just in passing that Jesus, peace be upon him, for example, obviously he did not speak English. He didn't speak English to the masses. I'm not going to get into the theoretical question of whether he could speak English, but he didn't on a practical level. The Old Testament prophets did not speak English. The Bible was not written in English, but Christianity has spread to the English-speaking world. Similarly, it should not be a barrier for Islamic source books to be in Arabic. So, there are some interesting narrations with respect to spreading Islam. because the other question that sometimes arises is that, okay, we may agree that Islam is the religion for all people at all times. We don't get unusually surprised if we see people becoming Muslim. We think it's something normal and something good. However, sometimes there is a question in our minds, I mean in our hearts, not necessarily in our minds, but in our hearts about whether we really should be trying to spread Islam. Now, this is one of those areas where we do find, at least in the West, there is a bit of a Sunni-Shi'i divide on this issue, and that the Sunni community, by and large, I'm not saying 100%, but by and large, they tend to invite people to Islam quite actively. You find people giving out books about Islam. They're there to answer questions. A new person comes to the mosque. They welcome them, welcome brother, welcome sister. I'm not saying the community doesn't have its challenges, but this is one area where they're doing quite well. However, sometimes in the Shi'i community we find the opposite. Even if someone wants to come and learn about the Shi'i school of thought, they can't get answers. People don't always want to talk about them. No one perhaps will speak to them when they go to an Islamic center or a mosque. So this is definitely one area